Welcome to today's math lesson on geometry. We are going to talk about the properties of two-dimensional figures. We're going to focus on triangles, different types of angles, and lines. What you're going to be doing, maybe on your own or with your classroom, is looking at different pictures and picking out the types of lines that you notice and the different types of angles that you notice. For example, here we have a basketball court. Do you see any perpendicular lines? How about parallel lines? Do you see any right angles or acute angles, obtuse angles, some points here? How about on this page? So that's going to be your job. You're going to be learning about the different 2D shapes and then identifying them on a field. Here's a soccer field. Do you see any shapes? A rectangle, maybe some right angles. How about here? This is a football stadium. Do you see any parallel lines, perpendicular lines? How about some right angles as well? So we're going to prepare ourselves to be able to identify the 2D shapes so that we can find them in the different sports arenas. Here we have a baseball field. So that's going to be our job today. So let's begin by talking about triangles. You need to know the three types of triangles by angle. And actually, fourth graders also need to know the three different types of triangles by sides. Let's look at the first side here. And here we have by angle. So the one I always start with is the one with the right angle because it tells me that it has one corner that's connected by two lines that is equal to 90 degrees, which is a right angle. So I know that this is my right triangle. Then I go ahead and I always look for the obtuse angle next because I know that it is the one with an angle that's wider and bigger than 90 degrees. So it has to be this one right here. And then once I identify those, I know that the rest are going to be acute angles because they're all going to be less than 90 degrees. That's how I identify them by angles. And also by sides. You know, if all three sides are the same length and um, the same length, so they're going to be equilateral triangles, three equal sides. If only two of the sides are equal, that's why there's two tick marks here and two tick marks here. That means it's going to be an isosceles triangle. Here we have a triangle that has three different sides with three different lengths, so it has no equal sides, and it's called a scalene triangle. So that's important to know in fourth grade. Here are different examples of of right triangles. Sometimes they'll put them upside down, sideways, they'll flip them over, and you'll have to still identify that little corner that's 90 degrees. And it tells me that it is the corner of, or it could have been the corner of a square or a rectangle. So these are right triangles. And this little symbol here tells me that it is 90 degrees. Okay. I want to move over to the obtuse triangles because the obtuse triangles, like we said, have one angle that is more than 90 degrees. It's greater than 90 degrees. So 113-degree angle is obtuse. A 108-degree angle is also obtuse. And so is a 117-degree angle. So all three here are obtuse angles. One obtuse angle per triangle makes it obtuse. The acute ones have three acute angles of less than 90 degrees. So all three of these angles will be less than 90, less than 90, and less than 90. And you can tell with the 64 degrees, 71 degrees, 45 degrees, all three are less than 90 degrees in angle. So it's an acute triangle. And same thing here, less than 90 degrees, less than 90 degrees, and less than 90 degrees. So that is how I know how to identify my three types of triangles if I was looking at the angle. So I think I'll be able to find lots of triangles if I start with a square or a rectangle and then start drawing lines. And I'm pretty good at that. So I can't wait to look at those sports arenas again so that I can identify them. But now let's talk about lines. What about the parallel lines the perpendicular lines, and the intersecting lines. Parallel lines, and I always like to make myself a little example here, are lines that are not going to touch, but they will be side by side. And they could go vertical, they could go horizontal, and diagonal. My perpendicular lines are the ones that cross and make a 90-degree angle. For example, here I would have a 90-degree angle. So that would make this a perpendicular line. It could also look something like this as well. And I have perpendicular 90-degree angles here. So there are different shapes that I can look at. And right here, I also have, and these make me think of streets, another 90-degree angle. So those are perpendicular angles. Intersecting angles are a little different. They form V's, and they are not, they don't have 90-degree angles. They're not going to have spaces in between. They are going to be touching in the middle. There will be crossing in the middle. And what I do know about the angles here is that this angle is going to be equal to this angle. And I also know that this angle here will be equal to this angle here. So that's always good to know. And these are the lines that I'm going to be looking for. Got my highlighters ready here with all of these lines. Here I have lines that are called line O, N, O. I have line L and M. So altogether I have 4 lines, even though it looks like I have so many more lines. Let's see if we can find some of these and highlight them. I'll start with the parallel. Do you see any parallel lines here? And say the letter of that line. Yes, there are 2. I mean, 1 pair, which equals 2. So I see that line N is parallel to line O, and I like to highlight that. Do you see any lines that are other lines that are parallel? If you do, tell me, because I don't see any more. How about perpendicular lines? Lines that form a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to make those pink, and I think I want to turn my page because I see this symbol here in the corner, and that symbol tells me that the angle is exactly 90 degrees. So I'm going to say that this line M is parallel to line N. And I could even extend it all the way over here. And those are parallel. I can also say, using a different color, that, no, I can use the same color, that line M is also parallel to line O, since they were equal distance from each other. So I've got 2 sets of perpendicular lines here, and I've made those pink. I like to use different colored highlighters. Ask your teachers if you could use different colored highlighters. I'm sure they will let you. How about intersecting lines? Lines that form V's and do not have any of these little symbols or corners that are 90 degrees. Do you see any? I'll turn the paper this way, turn it that way. Yes, I see one here. I see that line L makes a V shape with line M, and they are called intersecting lines. Now I'm going to find a ton of lines in those sports arenas. Triangles, a few, but lines, parallel, and especially parallel and perpendicular, lots of them. They like to use lines in sports and boundaries in sports as well. So this is what we're going to be using. Now, before you go on and work on your own independently or with your teacher, I want to show you one more thing that I want you to do today. I want you to practice making triangles and identifying the triangle. I want you to say this is a right angle because it has a 90 degrees in angle in the corner. I want you to say this is an acute triangle. I want you to, because it has 3 acute angles, 1 in each of the corners. And this is an obtuse angle because it has 1 obtuse angle out of the 3. So this is called triangles, and you play it with the computer. And you could also play multiplayers, but let's go ahead and get started. So I want to start just by connecting my dots, and then the computer connects its dots. So I'm blue. And the object of the game is to make as many triangles as you can. Oh, The computer beat me on this one. I helped him make, I helped the computer make a triangle. Okay, so now let me see. I'm gonna try and make another one, but I don't want the computer to win. Ah, let's see if I can connect this one to this line, this point over here. And I did, but I didn't get a point. Okay, so let me try again. What if I connect this point? Okay, I'll connect this point to this point. And then I gave them another one here. Okay, how about here to here? And that's another one. Ah, this one will be mine. So see, you just go ahead, you just make as many triangles as you can. And once you get the hang of it, play it again. And then you say, oh, this is an obtuse triangle because I see that this angle right here is greater than 90 degrees. It's more than the corner of a square or a rectangle. And then you can say this angle right, this triangle right here is, it looks like a triangle because this angle looks to be 90 degrees, and this triangle is all, I see all acute angles, so it must be an acute triangle. So I hope you have fun playing that game. Now remember, whenever you do your quick check, which is right here, you're going to be identifying and using words to tell what an acute angle is, a right angle and an obtuse angle. I want you to think about and remember that they have, what you do is you look at the angles exactly 90 degrees, more than 90 degrees, less than 90 degrees, so that you can be successful. And the activity that you're going to do with the sports arenas, you are either going to do this on your own and look for the different examples here and find at least one or two of the properties, or with your teacher. So I hope you have a great time. I hope that you enjoyed today's lesson and that you apply it next time that you are talking about 2D shapes.